edition today, we have in our midst the priest of the Catholic Diocese of Okigwe, Reverend Father Gerard Oswago. Father, I have introduced you from what I have, but would you please introduce yourself?
All right, thank you, my brother. Like you mentioned, my name is Father Gerard Oswago, and I studied architecture, masters in architecture precisely, and I studied at a university in California, Woodbury University in California. This university was established in 1884. Formerly, it was a church, but the government bought it, and decided to use it for an institution. So that is what I studied. And yeah, it took me 4 years, to do this program. Because in the US, if you have first degree and you want to study another thing again, it has to be master's. But in this case, it was supposed to be 18 months. But because I don't have a background in architecture, they now have to, extend it. So it seems as if it is both first degree and master's at the same time. Yes.
Okay.
So as I said, it took me 4 years. I graduated in 2019. After my graduation, I moved to Canada for my internship. And the reason why I decided to move to Canada was I needed to have, the taste of what architecture looks like, in another country apart from where I studied. So I saw that, Canada was the best place for me. And also, the way we do our measurements here in Nigeria is the same thing with that of Canada. So someone who is working in Canada is more or less like someone who is also working in Nigeria. So these are things that informed my decision about moving to Canada for my internship. So I'm done with the internship now. So that's it.
And why did you choose to study architecture?
Well, I found out that I have that talent. Then when I moved to the States, I decided to develop the talent. Now let me tell you something that happened before I was given admission. The system of education of US is quite different from ours. Ours here is what I may call garbage in, garbage out. But in the US, the teachers or the professors are like midwives. They first of all know that which is in you. And when they see that in you, they will help you to bring it out. And that is why someone who studies in US that person is more practical. And it looks as if it is easy. It is not easy. It is easy in the sense that you have the idea in you. And before you are given an admission, you must provide your portfolio. Portfolio is what will show or what will convince the school that this is the rightful place you belong. Like in my own case, when I was seeking for my admission, they asked me to provide my portfolio because they couldn't understand why, as a priest who works in the parish, is now moving into another profession. So they were asking me to provide my portfolio. And good thing, when I was at St. Teresa Somonakano, that church, through the grace of God, we were able to raise the money, build it, and dedicate it. While the project was going on, I was recording, taking pictures. So my portfolio now became all those things I recorded. And now edited them and submitted to them. So when they saw it, they called me and told me that yes, that they are now convinced that I have the capacity to do this program.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to say is, I realized I was able to figure out that, that talent is in me. That was the first thing. The second thing was I saw it as a challenge.
Okay.
There was one day we went for a pastoral meeting at Okigwe, and the bishop was narrating, the hurdles he has been facing in the course of building the cathedral. And one of those hurdles was there was an arbitration between the diocese and the contractor who was doing the work for about 3 years. And while this arbitration was going on, the entire project was suspended. So when he was narrating all this story, I felt bad. I told myself, why can't I do something? Why can't I take it upon myself to study architecture so that in such cases like that, we can come in to advise. Or even we can come in to
take it up,
to deal with the contractor, because by this time, after I must have studied, I must have learned the language so that we can now, talk in the language that both of us can understand. So I saw the narration of the bishop as those things happened because we hadn't someone who is a priest who will stand and challenge the contract. So that was the day I took the decision that if I step my foot outside this country, that I must go into architecture. So these are the two things that informed this idea. And these are the things that, really gave me that energy to move into that, because it wasn't easy, my brother. It was not easy. So that is it. You can now see why I, decided to move into this direction.
As a priest that studied architecture, how can you be of help to your diocese and the church in general?
In so many ways.
Okay.
Because when you look at what is going on here in Nigeria, in Africa at large, in terms of design concepts, you notice that we're really lagging behind. And so many things are wrong, And I think it's high time we started doing something, making sure that we at least, show ourselves to be people who really understand what the world is talking about in terms of design, in terms of development, So I think we have a lot to do. And yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Going around some parishes in the diocese, we see a lot of physical structures that are out of place. What is your advice to pastors, parish building committee of our local churches?
All right. Yeah, actually, you've made a good observation that so many things are going wrong in terms of physical structures of churches. My simple advice is this: pastors or whoever wants, to erect a building, should make some consultations, because one thing about architecture is when something is built, it has to, really reflect the intent of the person who is building it, and so many other things, So in that regard, if someone wants to build a church, my advice is reach out to people, seek advice on the best way to handle it, and not just waking up and, just going there and say, okay, build it here, build it there. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, for instance, let me tell you, the way we do our our buildings or designs here, I don't think it doesn't meet up to the international standard.
Okay.
For instance, before you build anything, the first thing that has to be done is site analysis.
Okay.
The site analysis will help you, first of all, to know the wind part, to know the sun part, to know where the noise comes from, and so many other things.
Okay.
And when you know all these, you now know where and how to place your buildings. So that after the building, in a situation where you don't have air conditioning,
Okay.
but the way you placed your window, because you were able to know the wind part, the way you place your window, you will see that the entire space will always be cool because you position your window the way it should be.
Okay.
Apart from that, another instance is the sun part.
Okay.
For instance, you want to build a church and you didn't position it well, and maybe a priest is celebrating mass and you see sun
Okay.
from nowhere, so that can be very distracting. So the site analysis will actually help you to know how to position the things you have to position in that building. And these are the things that will make your building look nice and good. But here we don't consider all those things. Someone will just wake up, I want it here, I want it there. So that's the problem. So my advice to pastors or to building commission is this: before a structure is erected,
Okay.
seek advice from people who can really help you in terms of giving you ideas on how to go about it.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you, Father.
you're welcome.
Father, in recent times, we have heard of collapsed buildings here in Nigeria and beyond. Please, what are the factors that could lead to such frustrating experience?
Yeah, I would say so many factors. One, from the government.
Okay.
Secondly, from the client. Thirdly, from the people who are building or who are designing.
Okay.
I think these things, they come into play. And when you begin to compromise, you are laying a very bad foundation. On the part of the government, it is the duty or the function of the government in making sure that the standard is maintained. On the part of the client, it is the duty or the function of the client in making sure that the materials, the right materials, are provided. On the part of the designer or the contractor or the architect, it is his duty to make sure that whatever that is prescribed or whatever that is kind of designed, that it must be built in that way, following the specification. But when you begin to compromise, when you begin to listen to the client telling you, oh, there's no money, this and that, when you begin to listen to people coming around to tell you, if you do it this way and this way, that's where the problem sets in. So the right thing to do is this: the government must be on the foot. Then the designer or the contractor or the architect should also maintain his stand. Don't compromise anything. Because when you begin to compromise, you're messing yourself up and your integrity will be at stake. For instance, if I do a design and I present it to my client, and my client begins to tell me, change this, change that, or I don't have money, why can't we? I would tell the person, it is either you do it the rightful way or I quit.
Okay.
So my concern is not just to build, but my integrity is at stake, and I have to maintain it. So coming back to your question, I think we see all these collapsed buildings because of the compromise that moves around. within these three parties. It is the duty of the government in making sure that whatever material that is being produced by the producers, that must be of the right standard.
Okay.
But when the owner of a company will just do whatever he wants because he knows that he can,
Get away with.
get away with that. He knows that he can tip the people involved. That's where the problem starts in. So I think here in Nigeria, we need total overhauling if we really want to make this country a better place. If we really want to really make architecture to be something enticing, something that people can come in and say, wow, this is good. For us to get at that level, I think it's going to take time. It's going to take time. But we can do it.
Okay.
There are people who are serious. There are people who can volunteer the time. There are people who are ready. But would they be given the opportunity? That is the question.
All right. Thank you for that. Indeed, many of our people, both young and old, would really want to build a house of their own, but perhaps do not really know how to go about it, even when they have the capital. Please, what words of guidance can you offer to such persons out there?
All right. I think viewers, this is an opportunity for each and every one of us, to cue in into the right direction. For instance, I've studied architecture, and I'll be of help to anyone who really wants to do something good. I'm not interested in the church or the fees now, but my interest is making sure that the right thing is done. So in this regard, I think when we reach out to people, then we can help and see how those things can be done. And trust me, one thing with me is, when I set out to do something, I will, get it right the way it should be. So for those people, if they need advice, we're here to help. We can easily, give our advice and tell them or direct them what to do. And also there are also some other, reputable architects out there, but I think the problem is meeting the right people, having the right connection. So whoever wants to build, whoever has the money and maybe doesn't know what to do, let the person reach out. We can direct, we can give assistance on what to do.
All right, thank you for that. What are some of the economic and climatic benefits of using bricks in the construction of residential buildings in the tropical regions?
All right, there are so many things. Let me start with how it is done in California. In California, they use wood to build. One of the economical reasons is this: wood is more economical in terms of the price. To construct buildings in California with bricks, you will spend through your nose. Not only that, when you use, that's what we call seismic conditions. For instance, in California, we have earthquakes. So when you use bricks to construct, and probably there is an earthquake, when the house is destroyed, the devastation will be great, the impact will be great. But when you use wood, it will be lesser compared with when you use bricks. Right. So now this is about California. Then coming back home here, to use these bricks like Father Ozema is using here, it's cheaper. It is easier to maintain. And also, In a situation whereby you don't have light, you can go into your room and you have, you feel that serene atmosphere because of, the bricks. And, for instance, if the sun is coming through this way, before the heat of the sun through conduction can get someone inside here, it's going to be a long time. Other than if you use something like an iron, right? So the time it will take for the heat to pass from outside to inside through conduction, the time it will take for iron is lesser than the time it will take for bricks. So you cannot begin to understand the importance of this brick and these bricks, and my recommendation, to people to try and use some of these materials. They be of help because of our climatic condition, because of the cheap nature or the economic importance of these bricks. So I think it's really good, and it is my intention any time I'll come back home, to start doing something. I would like to partner with this company, yes, so that we can use our own materials. They are nice, they are cheaper, but I think it needs more refined materials. So that's what I can say about it. It is good. It is commendable. It is cheaper. Yeah, and I would recommend people to really like it, and if they want to use it, they can use it, because from what I've seen, it is very strong and durable.
All right. Thank you for that. As a construction expert, what solution can you proffer to the high cost of constructing residential buildings and prefabricated shelter helped in salvaging the situation?
So I think the high cost of materials, I would say one of the reasons for that is because we import most of these materials. We don't produce. Although when you compare the cost of production in Nigeria with the cost of production abroad, you see that it is far cheaper here. But for us who are living here, we know how difficult it is for us to get money. The high cost is as a result of importation of materials. So if the government can look inwards and think of how to bring in these companies in Nigeria so that we produce, not only that we produce, when we produce, it will be cheaper, and also it's a way of creating job for our youths. So instead of spending money going to import things from abroad, we produce them here. So government has a great role to play in that regard. The government should step up and see how they regulate also most of these things. Because in a country that there's no regulation, anybody can just come up and do whatever he wants. That is another problem we are having here. So there must be regulation and also a way to stop these importations. I think these two basic things are the reasons why the cost of materials here are
high.
very high or on a hike. So, yeah.
And
also, our people are will I say, they are too much money conscious. Everybody wants to make gain. They don't even consider the plight of our people. So I think that has to be put into consideration also. People should be considerate. Manufacturers or sellers or they should be considerate.
The importers.
Yes, or the importers should be considerate. But what they do is they don't care about about who is buying. They don't care about whatever you want to, but what they care is the money, which is not advisable, not good. So, something has to be done. The government has a role to play, the individuals, the marketers, and all of us.
Do you think the church should send more of the priests to study architecture and other courses under the construction business?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would recommend that. We need more hands to be on deck.
Okay.
One person cannot do it alone. We need to diversify.
Thank you. We have come to the end of today's edition with Father Gerard Oswago and architecture. Father, we pray that God will continue to bless you and will bring to limelight your dreams. Thank you. Viewers, keep watching DCTv.